There are moments in life when emotions take over, blinding us to reason, making us act before we think. It's easy to tell ourselves that we should stay calm, think before we act, and control our tempers. But when the moment comes, when anger surges like a storm or frustration builds like a pressure cooker, it's much harder to practice restraint. I know this because I, too, have been a victim of my own impulses, and the regret that follows is a burden heavier than any rage I have ever felt. I recall a time when I let my temper get the best of me. I had a stable and comfortable customer service job with a good salary, a pleasant work environment, supportive colleagues, and a manageable workload. However, my colleagues and I had some minor disagreements with our manager, which left us somewhat dissatisfied. Over time, a colleague persuaded me that we should look for new opportunities and resign together, not only to make our manager lose face, but also let him realize our worth. It was a childish and vindictive thought, one fueled by emotion rather than reason. Without securing another job first, we submitted our resumes to our competitor company using our company's email address, waiting for the right moment to execute our grand exit. But fate had other plans. Our big boss found out before we could act, and we were confronted. In that moment, my emotions took over. The frustration, the resentment, the unspoken grievances, they all poured out in a flood of impulsive words. I spoke ill of the company, my manager, the system itself. I burned every bridge in the heat of the moment. My colleague, however, remained silent. She let me do the talking, and when the dust settled, she kept her job while I was left unemployed. Reality hit hard and fast. The job market was slow, and I found myself in a desperate struggle to find new employment. Weeks turned into months, and the weight of my mistake grew heavier with each rejection letter. When I finally did land a new job, it was nothing like my previous one. The pay was significantly lower, the work environment suffocating, and the frustration I felt made me long for the stability I had so carelessly thrown away. Looking back, I deeply regretted my impulsive actions and wished I had handled the situation with greater patience and wisdom. I lost something I liked, and I learned a hard lesson from it. Impulse, the devil within us, lurks in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to take control. Those moments when emotions take over before reason have a chance to step in. It's like there's a little devil on our shoulder, whispering, "Just do it, just say it," before we even think about the consequences. Impulse can feel like a storm that sweeps us away, making us lash out, say things we don't mean, or make choices we later wish we could undo. Impulsiveness often comes from a short temper, an inability to pause and process emotions before reacting. And let's be honest, no one is born with a bad temper. It's shaped by stress, life experiences, and sometimes even how we were raised. Some of us grew up in households where anger was the loudest voice in the room. Others carry years of bottled-up frustration until it spills over at the worst moments. And then, there's just the exhaustion of life, when things don't go our way and patience wears thin. The truth is, an unchecked temper has consequences we don't always see right away. It can strain relationships, hurt careers, and even take a toll on our health. The worst part, when we're caught in that wave of anger, we don't see the bigger picture. We just see the need to react, to defend, to prove a point. But once the storm passes, we're left with regret, wishing we had just taken a deep breath, walked away, or chosen different ways. When I was young, my temper was like a raging fire. One morning during breakfast with my mom, we got into an argument over something trivial. Overcome by frustration in the heat of the moment, and I shove the table as I rise, trying to express my anger. In an instant, a cup of hot coffee topples over, spilling onto the floor and scalding her hand. Though it wasn't severe enough to require immediate medical attention, I saw the redness on her skin and the pain in her expression. In that moment, regret washed over me like a cold wave. My impulse had caused harm to someone I loved. I wanted to take it back, to undo what had happened, but it was too late. That incident stayed with me, a stark reminder that unchecked emotions can lead to unintended consequences, sometimes hurting the people who matter most. How often have we let anger or frustration push us into saying something we later regretted? How many conflicts could have been avoided if we had just paused for a moment? I think we've all been there, snapping at someone we love, making a reckless decision, or letting our emotions get the best of us. And the weight of regret? That's something no one should carry. But maybe, just maybe, if we remind ourselves to slow down, take a breath, and think before reacting, we can save ourselves a lot of unnecessary pain. So how do we fight against our impulses? How do we train ourselves to pause before we react? I have learned, through painful experiences, a few methods that help me keep my emotions in check. 1. Pause and breathe. When emotions flare, taking a deep breath and stepping back, even for just 10 seconds, can make a world of difference. It allows the logical mind to catch up with the emotional response. 2. Think of the consequences. I have started asking myself, will this matter in a week, a month, a year? Most of the time, the answer is no. That simple realization helps me choose a response I won't regret later. 3. Walk away. There is strength in knowing when to remove yourself from a situation. I have learned that silence is often more powerful than a heated argument. Walking away is not a sign of weakness, but a choice to protect peace. 4. Practice empathy. Trying to see things from the other person's perspective helps soften the intensity of emotions. Sometimes, anger is simply a misunderstanding in disguise. 5. Find a healthy outlet. Whether it's writing, exercising, or talking to a trusted friend, having an outlet for emotions prevents them from building up to a breaking point. I won't pretend that I have mastered these lessons. There are still times when I feel the sting of anger, when my emotions threaten to take over. But I remind myself that every battle against impulse is a step toward wisdom. Every moment of restraint is a victory over the devil within. To anyone who has ever acted on impulse and regretted it, know that you are not alone. But we also know that with practice, patience, and self-awareness, we can break free from the cycle of impulsive reactions. We can choose to be better, to think before we act, to build rather than destroy. Regret is a heavy burden, but wisdom is its silver lining. And sometimes, the greatest power we have is the choice to pause, to breathe, and to walk away before we let impulse win. Thank you for watching. Take good care of yourself. See you next time.